Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. So today I have a very special guest. Well, special to me because he's somebody that I actually followed when I first began my own healing journey. Oh, so long ago. When was that? Like over 10 years ago, I think now. And he was one of the first kind of people that were in the whole paleo sphere when it first started off and becoming super popular. And at that time, I was riddled with digestive issues. I had found out that I had a parasite. I was constantly bloated. I had all these hormonal problems, weight loss issues. And this guy is somebody that I followed all the time. I listened to his podcast. And so when he asked me to come on my show, it made me feel pretty good. I was like, yes, I'm coming full circle here. Like, look at this. And now I'm having Stephen on my podcast. So my guest today is Stephen Wright, who is a medical engineer, a Kalish Functional Medicine Institute graduate, and gut health specialist. He spent close to $400,000 overcoming his own health challenges, using everything from Western medicine to shamans. Stephen is the founder of healthygut.com. He lives in Boulder, Colorado with his fiancé Shay and their two dogs. So welcome, my friend. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I feel awesome to have you on. It's like, I feel like, geez, I should have had you on probably years ago, but here we are. We're doing it now. So that's all
no
good.
Better time than the now.
Exactly. All meant to be. So I want to know, first of all, and I'm sure the listeners do as well, holy crap, $400,000. Like, I think most of us can be like, I have spent thousands of dollars on my health issues, but 400,000, that's huge. And we're talking like $500,000, especially in Canadian dollars. So what happened? Like, what, tell me your journey through this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's important for people to know that I'm a weirdo, and I just can't stop digging. I can't stop asking the question why. And then I'm also weird in that I will readily throw myself into different ideas or treatments that are maybe even, scary or under the rug or bleeding edge to some people, just because I kind of like it. It's kind of adventuresome to me. So,
yes,
not everybody needs to spend anywhere clear or anywhere close to that amount of money. And that's part of my role in this life, is to help people avoid spending anywhere near that, unless they really want to be like me, which I don't encourage. But yeah, I mean, I had a birth defect as a child. I had that caused intestinal issues, and I almost didn't make it. I only gained a pound in the first 12 weeks. So I needed an anti-spasmodic drug to calm my intestines down, just to actually make it here today. And then I was also raised in the generation of antibiotics. I had cystic acne as a teenager. And so the best dermatologist in my area gave me 4 years straight of Bactrim DS, which is a pretty strong, broad spectrum antibiotic.
Yes.
And so that was not good. I already had a family history of IBS, and it was very normal in my family to have these issues. So I didn't think I was really all that weird. Then I went to college, and I had a somewhat similar experience to Animal House. I was an engineer, basically a 90% male dominated college. And so there wasn't much to do besides drink and study. But what I learned when I joined the fraternity was that, holy cow, not everybody's like me. Not everybody has to spend an hour in the morning on the toilet, just kind of waiting for things to go through you. Not everybody has these, like beer runs or allergic reactions to certain foods where they're just sneezing and they're getting hives and all this kind of weird stuff. Like I really sort of got out of my family system and saw that, wow, I'm different than these folks. And I'm smellier, and I'm a little more, having more embarrassing problems than even these other guys. And so that was a big insight for me, but it wasn't until after college when I had what was consider my dream job. And I was having so much gas and bloating that I would basically cry after every meal. It didn't matter if it was pizza and beer or if it was lettuce and salad. And at the time I was really trying to lose like 50 pounds. I was trying to get my acne under control. I was having wild depression, anxiety swings with panic attacks. And I was trying to be I was working for a Big Four accounting firm serving the Fortune 100 companies. And I was trying to keep it all together. And my coworkers were like, hey, you're the stinky guy. And my boss was like, if you don't get this handled, you're probably not gonna be able to work here. And so that was like, I'm a pretty dense dude. And so that was the 2x4. There was a lot of other very embarrassing stories, but that had me finally like go to the doctor, many doctors. And unfortunately, from the Western side, they at least ruled out celiac disease. They basically offered me more antibiotics, which I was super anti-antibiotics at that point, because I'd gone into the hospital after 4 years of them because of that. And so the seeds were planted. And then after 3 different doctors basically said, suck it up, kid, you're not that bad. We don't really have much for you to do. I was like, okay, this is a problem that only I care enough about to solve, because clearly no one else is going to care as much as I do. They have no idea the amount of pain and suffering that I'm experiencing. And that just launched me on what has been a never ending journey of just, okay, cool. If I'm responsible, and I have a degree in engineering, which is essentially solving complex equations and complex systems where we don't know all the answers, I can reverse engineer this. There has to be someone out there like me. And if I could find what them and the specific issue they had, and I can reverse engineer what they did, I can figure this out. And so here we are, like 13 years later, and a lot of different, ups and downs and really cool experiences.
And what did you discover? Like, how did you finally did you get a diagnosis finally, or was it just a matter of, I just need to heal the gut?
Well, I mean, through functional medicine, I had an IBS diagnosis, but through functional medicine, I learned that I had visceral hypersensitivity of IBS, which is a condition where 30 to 60% of people with IBS actually experience like pretty intense pain from the exact same amount of distension or bloating. It just affects people differently due to their nervous system, basically. And so I had that. And then I did have a parasite, actually had 2, H. pylori and Indolamax nana. I had my gut microbiome was just totally dysbiotic. I don't know if I ever really had SIBO or Candida, but I treated it. At the time, it was working with some doctors back in like 2011, 2012. And so there wasn't anywhere near the amount of data or testing that's available now, but we treated for it. And then I ended up having all kinds of wacky neurotransmitters due to several concussions throughout high school and college. I had estrogen dominance. So for me, it was like unfolding of the onion, truly, like literally, truly. Diet took away about 50%, switching my diet to the specific carbohydrate diet, which is just like a more, a less processed version of the paleo diet. That gave me about 50% less bloating in the first week. And I was hooked that like I could do something. And then I tried a stomach acid supporting supplement called B10HCl like a couple of weeks later, and that immediately helped out. And so I started just, going for it and trying and realizing that, hey, supplements and diet change alone can do a lot. But at some point I did start seeking out like, okay, cool. Now I need a gut health specialist. Now I need a hormone specialist. Now I need a brain specialist. And then, more recently, now I need nervous system and trauma specialists, to kind of fully come full circle to really, because my goal is I'm a bit of a hedonist. I'm also vain. So I want to look my best. I want to still have pleasure. I don't want to be told I can't eat
Aren't we
things.
all?
I think at some layer, yes, but not everybody's
human nature.
Yeah, willing to just go to the lengths I am.
And when you say you needed a hormone specialist, you needed a neuro specialist, you needed a gut specialist, but really it was all stemming from the same issue, was it not? Like you get estrogen dominant because you're not breaking down your estrogen in your gut.
Yeah, totally. That's what we're starting to learn these days from the research and just clinically after using the same types of protocols for 5-10 years. It's like, oh, there's actually a huge component of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone inside of the, sorry about that. That's Miss Gracie. So hold on one sec.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're still trying to figure it out, but there's the hepatic recirculation of the spent hormones that can be an issue. I think what I've learned since going deep into female hormones over the last couple of years in cancer, unfortunately, is that women with really wacky estrogen and progesterone numbers, even if they use bioidentical creams or they use injections or pellets or whatever they're trying to do, even oral prescriptions, If they have a wacky gut, their blood markers and their urine analysis, their chemistry on their hormones is not going to get dialed in, and they're going to blame their hormones,
yeah.
or they're going to blame the type of hormone therapy they're using, when the whole time it was the connection with the gut.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because my entire program is really about helping women to prepare their body for the bioidentical hormones, if that's what they so choose to do. Because a lot of women can't just slap it on and be okay. A lot of women can, but a lot of women can't. And you need to have that healthy gut. You need to have the diet in place. You need to have the stress reduction so that your body will take those hormones on the way they should. Because if not, like you said, then their markers, they're not great and they don't feel good, and they may gain weight from it, or not, there can be a whole slew of side effects. So it's very, very important. So did you also have low testosterone?
Yeah. I've kind of struggled with that pretty much my entire life since I started testing it. Having high sex hormone binding globulin and then lower testosterone. I don't know, maybe at this point, if I'll ever get it back. The thing that I was born with is called a hydrocele hernia. And I did have an operation at 2. And so, when your testes are involved in operations and you're 2, and, the surgery took place in the mid 80s. So I don't know if there's some damage, but I don't know that I'll ever reach like the peak 800s or thousands that some people talk about, unless I'm going to go full testosterone replacement. But even then, like you just said, if the gut isn't healthy enough, and maybe that's my problem the whole time, maybe it has nothing to do with the testes, maybe it's just my damaged gut my entire life. If it's not there, the numbers don't work and the symptoms don't resolve.
Yeah. So you haven't tried testosterone therapy yet?
No, not yet. I'm kind of holding off for a little while here. Still trying to optimize for gut function, still optimizing for mitochondrial function, brain function, those types of things. I could still gain weight, or I can still gain weight and muscle pretty easily, and I don't have any issues in the bedroom. So at this point, it's not on the top of the list of things to do, but it'll be there. Once I hit mid 40s, probably.
Well, you can call me up when you're ready and I'll help you out.
Okay.
So let's talk about what exactly is a specific carbohydrate diet, because that's how I really was introduced to you in the beginning. Was I was looking for stuff to help with my gut issues. And so that's how I came across yours. And I told you this before we started airing this or recording this, was my sister actually bought the program. And I remember doing it for a little bit, but I ended up thinking, I don't think I'm that is so bad that I think I had to do that. Like, I was just like, no, I don't think I need to do that. I need to go with a different. And I ended up just going with paleo, and that really helped heal all my gut problems. But the specific carbohydrate diet, if I do believe it, comes originally from Elaine Gottschall, right? Is that how you say her name?
That's how you say her name. Yeah, she's actually the one who popularized it. She didn't actually come up with it. It came out of the 1920s. In the 20s, if you were born with celiac disease, you pretty much died of malnutrition and starvation, because everything they gave you ran right through you and you couldn't keep your nourishment up. And so there was some cool doctors, one of them being Dr. Sidney Haas in Vanderbilt. And these guys were just obsessed with these little kids, these little boys and girls. And they just rotated through different foods, trying to figure out what would stop them from having so much loose stools and malnutrition. And they grouped the foods that seemed to work for them based on the fact that the majority of the foods that they struggled with were complex or disaccharides. So complex carbohydrates, polysaccharides, or disaccharides. And so they came up with this diet that basically saved these celiac kids and turned their lives around. And then many of them in the first book that was published in 1950 go on to eat gluten and have a normal life. So they looked at this food and they said, what's similar? And they thought, well, there's a lack of complex carbohydrates here. And it makes sense, because in order to break down those complex carbohydrates of any type, you need a lot of enzymes that come from the brush border. And the brush border is literally the hallmark gold standard diagnosis is for a celiac person, is that the brush border is just completely destroyed by inflammation and other things. And I apologize if there's some banging in the background here.
We got dogs, we've got construction. Jeez, I think I'm bad. Usually it's my dog that barks, so that's totally okay. But yes, sorry, go ahead. And I also want you, can you give us examples of what types of carbs those actually are, because a lot of people are, they're like polysaccharides. They're like, what's that?
Yeah. So poly, the prefix just means many. And so you could think about this like as oats or grains. These are multi saccharide complexes, but also sweet potatoes, rice, any starch essentially of any type, whether you consider it good or bad, and any grain, again, whether you consider it good or bad, is going to be a polysaccharide. But there's also plenty of polysaccharides in just straight up vegetables, like cruciferous vegetables, for instance. So they're really all over the place. And that type of science, those guys didn't have access to. And Elaine didn't have access to that science either when she published her book that like sold millions and millions of copies in 1990. I think she published it. And so just to complete in case people are wondering, just to complete this thing, you start with like a piece of sweet potato, right? You eat your sweet potato. It's this beautiful orange looking thing that's maybe cooked with a little butter and cinnamon or something delicious. And your body's got to go from those little smaller bites that you turned it into. Hopefully you took more than 8 or 10 and you took your time eating it. And your body's got to basically liquefy that down and break apart those cell walls and break apart the structures inside those cells. So it uses the stomach and enzymes in your mouth as well as in the stomach. And then after a lot of that heavy lifting is done in the small intestine, when that food sort of dumps into your small intestine, there's a bunch of extra specialty enzymes that go in, and literally enzymes just break. There's like little cutters. They sort of cut up the molecules. And so polysaccharides end up becoming smaller and smaller groupings until the point where they get down to fermentable fibers and nutrients. And then they get down to glucose and fructose. Sorry.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you cannot absorb molecules that are too big, and too big means anything more than one. So glucose and fructose go across the membrane of the digestive tract, but sucrose does not. Polysaccharides do not. And so this is, I would say, the number one issue when it comes to bloating, gas, farting. If you want to set up the conditions to have candida recurring or SIBO recurring, it's right here, right now, because those molecules, like I said, can only be of a certain size, and then they only have a certain window. The small intestine changes from top to bottom. It absorbs different nutrients along the way, and the carbohydrate part of it is near the top third. And so as you drive down lower, as the food sits in your small intestine longer and longer, it has less and less capacity to be absorbed, at least the carbohydrates. And that is going to be the easiest fuel for an overgrowth of bacteria or fungi or whatever, because the number one thing I think we can all agree upon is that life wants to live. If you throw peanut butter or honey out on the sidewalk, none of us can say what's going to show up, but immediately bugs start, like microscopically bugs show up. You might have a dog, you might have ants. It's just life. If there's food sources, life grows. That's how it works. And so in the body, if we cannot process even something as benign and nutritious as a sweet potato, it can end up causing us harm by being food for other things.
Right. So it's kind of like a peeling back the layers of the onion, because you're talking about that not being able to absorb these properly can then lead to XYZ. Like it could be SIBO, it could be candida, it could be diarrhea, it could be constipation, it might be bloated. So it can show up in different ways, but the root issue is still the same. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Barring some crazy defect from birth or abnormality from a trauma, you're setting up the conditions to have overgrowth and disrupted blood sugar and disrupted everything, including malnutrition of nutrients, by not properly breaking down and absorbing the foods right from the beginning.
And so if we go upstream even farther, it can be like, for you, you had a lack of hydrochloric acid, which helps to break down proteins. So it could be that somebody may have infection, parasite, H. pylori, low hydrochloric acid, low digestive enzymes. So it could be from a lot of different things, but then the same stuff happens and causes all these different symptoms.
Yeah. And if you have one of those and you don't immediately start to support it or try to figure out the root cause of it, which most people don't, so don't beat yourself up. They pretty much start to cascade and lead to the next and to the next, because your body, again, wants to live. Its first priority is keep you alive. And so if you say you have low stomach acid, my belief, and this has never been studied, but my belief is that the body's going to, while it can, use extra enzymes to try to deal with this incoming protein that's misshapen or not properly detoxified or whatever, cut up, things like that. And so at some point, though, your body's going to get tired of making, twice as many enzymes as what it needs to. And so then your enzymes start to break down and go low. Also, we know that the enzymes part of the reason why they don't eat you up from the inside out is that they need the right pH to work in. And so if your pH is off from your stomach, the enzymes only work in a certain range, and they just are 50% effective. And so if you're already pumping out twice as much, but it's only 50% effective, it just creates a spiral. And then, what happens if you lose, I don't know, 30, 40% of all your incoming protein to the toilet for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And you start to realize that like every cell in your body needs these amino acids to turn over, and your neurotransmitters are built of amino acids. And then, wow, isn't that weird that we have a lot of depression and anxiety? And these people tend to have gut issues. Is it the microbiome alone, or is there also something going on here with just malnutrition of what the body needs to make what it needs to?
Right. And so with the specific carbohydrate diet, if I recall, you bring it down to almost nothing as far as foods go. And so this can work to heal most of these things, like the gut issues, do you think, like as long as people continue to eat well afterwards? And explain what kind of exactly what you guys do as far as your methods of removing all of this stuff.
Yeah, so I really think SCD is a beautiful tool for people who have failed other diets. So if you've failed paleo, you've failed paleo AIP, or
failed as in it didn't work, or just couldn't stick with it?
Didn't work.
Okay.
More, because not being able to stick with a diet is a behavioral, emotional thing. Yeah. So if it didn't work, then, well, number one, you probably need all these digestive supports just to operate. Like there's this really giant assumption that we make, which is that diet heals. And we just talked about what a sweet potato, the same thing's true for kale. The same thing's true for red meat, for chicken. If you cannot break these regular foods down and absorb them, they're going to end up causing toxic downstream effects for you. And so I don't care what diet you're on, even if you're just regular standard American, you might not have a fully functioning stomach or small intestine or large intestine. And I think that's just a massive assumption that I made for many, many years. And I think most people are still making. So, but if we throw that aside, the FODMAP diet or the paleo autoimmune diet are typically where I tell people to start if they have GI issues. And if you still fail on those, then going to a specific carbohydrate diet is a great way to really strip it all back. Go to the lowest amount of foods possible, and you're basically like pre-digested foods, meaning cooked and sometimes even blenderized. And so and you can't eat out. You can't eat anything from a package. You got to make it all from scratch. It's a life-changing experience. It's probably easier to switch your religion than it is to switch to the SCD.
Yes. I mean, like I said, I tried to, and then realized, oh gosh, I don't think I need to go to this extent, but I've worked with clients who didn't work for them. The paleo,
right. It can cause disordered eating. It can cause some serious orthorexia side effects long-term. But that being said, it has saved a ton of lives, or at least like tons of colons. And, a lot of times it's typically more people with IBD that end up on it because they just don't have any other options. It's like, would you like this really powerful drug and surgery, or would you like to change your diet to go and slowly add in every single type of food and take notes on it? And most people are like, I would prefer not to do the second part or the other part, but I guess I can make an exception, and we'll start, chicken broth and work our way up from there. So
Yeah.
it does work really well that way.
Yeah, if somebody was given the option, like, oh, we can take out your bowel and you can have a bag, what do you call that? A colostomy bag?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Or you do this, and it really does seem to work to rebuild the gut. And I know that you guys have helped literally thousands and thousands of people to literally get off the toilet. And, some people that were having this severe chronic diarrhea all day long and never absorbing any of their nutrients, to being able to eat a normal diet. And I really like that you said sometimes diet just isn't enough, right? Because I think we, as humans in this North American, where we're at right now in the health industry, everybody, when they have any health problem or weight issues, they immediately go to diet, which is great. I always say it has to be the foundation. You have to have a good diet, and you have to find what diet's going to work for you, but you have to build upon that. And there's always, there's typically supplements that are needed, possibly like you may need to kill off some parasites or any sort of an infection that's in there, and work on top of that good, clean diet. But a lot of the time you can't diet your way out of these things. And unfortunately, we're being told that that's what we need to do, right? It's like that we all got this tunnel vision, and it's like, well, if this diet hasn't fixed all my problems, I'm going to just go look for the next best diet and hope that it's going to work. And it's like, no, now you got to keep digging a little bit deeper, maybe doing a little more research, a little more testing to see, maybe, do you need an antibiotic to kill something, that you have, if you've got SIBO or whatever's the next best thing for that these days, which I want to ask you about.
Yeah. I mean, well, what you just said there is like so critical. And I don't think that unless you've tried more than 2 diets, you might not, this will go out one or in one ear, out the other. It won't make sense to you because you're not far enough on your healing journey yet. But for those of you who've tried 1 or 2 diets and you haven't seen the results you want, you really need to look up the law of diminishing returns and really look into how you cause breakthroughs, whether it's in creative thinking or whatever. Typically, if you keep pushing in one direction and you haven't seen any more change than you saw in the first 30 days of the first change, the breakthrough you are seeking, whether it's weight loss or digestively or mentally, is probably not with another yoga teacher or another diet or another trainer. It's probably in a complete other direction that you have been unwilling to look at or go and investigate, which would be, full supplements for your gut or full testing for your hormones or dealing with that trauma that is in the past, whatever it might be. But this idea that if we just keep changing our diet, it's starting to drive me a little nuts. Same. because you're making so many assumptions about your body, and maybe your body's just crying out for help, saying, hey, I don't have the enzymes, it doesn't matter what you eat, or I don't have the stomach acid, it doesn't matter what you eat. I don't have the butyrate, to even get rid of the histamine. You can take all the quercetin you want. It's not going to work. So there's these assumptions. So getting off the soapbox, it's if you want a breakthrough and you've been going down a certain direction, normally just doing that harder, faster, longer is not the way to have the breakthrough. There's an easier way, but it requires you having courage and being scared a little bit and trying something new.
Yeah. And we typically see people doing so much more harm because they think that it's the diet. So they just think they need to go more extreme because they'll go on to some diet. It's like they feel a little bit better, but then their symptoms come back. So they think they start, oh, I got to do this longer, harder. Like you just said, like with a ketogenic diet or fasting, or, you know what, I'm going to do a 5-day fast. That'll heal my gut. When their system is in such high alert in that fight or flight response, their whole system is in overdrive. And then they're going to go fast for 5 days and they think that that's going to help. And it's just such an onslaught to the nervous system that it just makes everything that much worse. And then they're just driving themselves deeper and deeper. And people have to be so careful because everybody's going to tell you that their specific diet is going to be the answer to all their problems. And Sometimes it is. Sometimes people change. A lot of the time it is. Change your diet and they feel 100% better. Their gut heals and everything's great. A lot of the time it's not. So you got to dig
Yeah.
deep. Yeah.
Yeah. And just trust your intuition.
Yeah.
Don't subject your knowing to the community leader, to the Facebook leader, to the expert on a podcast. Like if you've been doing something for 6 weeks and you're still having loose stools, or you're having hives, or you're feeling destabilized blood sugar wise, just because someone's saying like you're not doing it right or you need to do it harder, like trust your intuition, because I've seen so much damage done from those people, like you mentioned, with good intentions, who were mild cases. Frankly, they were not that bad off. No matter what, I know they had pain, but they were not that bad off. They made one change and now they feel amazing. And those are pretty much, if you're not like them, don't listen to them. Find other people who have struggled many, many times and listen to how they did it, because that's actually how you would reverse engineer your breakthrough. Unfortunately, you're just, I wasn't like that. I'm a tough case. I've tried 40, 50 diets.
Yeah.
I've tried a lot. And so I just have to go through the muddy waters and take the dirt road to find my way, back to healing. And the people who are on the pedestals or the positions of power who didn't have to fight that hard, they pretty much are really great for leading that type of person, but they're not really great for leading the chronically struggling person.
Yes. Yeah. I think us practitioners, it's like we all have to have the worst of the worst and have a multiple different issues so that we do what we do. And so we can help others that are in the same boat. That's the way I see it. It's like, okay, oh, really? This is going to happen to me now? Great. But it's like,
that's
I
the
get to teach
traditional
it.
sense of a medicine man or a medicine woman.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to talk about how can these things, these gut problems, affect somebody's weight, because I'm really all about finding the root cause of weight loss resistance. And there's nothing worse than those people for going after diet after diet after diet, trying to fix these things when it has to do with their gut. And that same with their hormone health and their weight. So tell us, how could this stop somebody from losing weight? You sounded like you were overweight. Is that right? When you were going through all of this? A lot of people are underweight with gut problems like yours, but you not so much.
Yeah, I was like 245, maybe a little heavier at my max.
Yeah.
I got a little extra COVID weight at the moment. I'm around 200, but I would like to be a little less than this. But as you can hear from the banging in the background, my life is it's super stressful. And so it's a little unrealistic for me to assume that I can just, melt away these pounds until I'm willing to change my environment. And unfortunately,
right. We got to practice what we preach. Hey?
Yeah, my environment's going to be like this for a little while longer.
Yeah.
That being said, I consider going through the gut to weight loss is sort of like a second order consequence. Basically, what I mean by that is if you really have your gut dialed and you have really good gut health, the second order consequence of handling that issue is that you will more naturally stabilize. If you're underweight, you'll gain weight much easier. And if you're overweight, the pounds will come off sustainably longer, and you will gradually lower your set point for your body weight. And why is that? Well, we can blame it on a whole bunch of things, and it's very individualized for everybody. There's ways in which if you're highly deficient in certain nutrients, your brain is going to drive you to consume more foods looking for those nutrients. So if you're not processing the nutrients out of your food, your brain could be driving you to eat more just to try to get those foods out. Not only that, there's second order consequences. Like, I don't know anybody that likes to go to the gym or work out if they're bloated or they're having a lot of constipation or diarrhea. So you talk about trying to adhere to the workout routines and the diets you want. Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm having a bad gut day, I am so easy to snap. I'm really hard to it's really hard for me just to be a good, nice person. And I really want to be, but I'm just in so much agony that for me to do the things normally is harder. And so I'll soothe more and I'll move less. And so things like this add up over a month. On top of that, you have low-grade chronic inflammation that's typically coming from the gut that tends to dysregulate the metabolic, just the whole body, whether it's blood sugar or metabolism. Things like this can just like if you're always down 20 to 30%, like you're struggling, that adds up month over month over month. I can't remember if it was Stephan Guyenet or one of these weight loss researchers who kind of looked at like what happens if you just had one extra snack, every day for a whole year, or you just, had one extra bottle of wine, and like it adds up quickly to 5, 10, 15 pounds by the end of the year, just by doing that little action, if you don't cause another action against that to regulate it. And so I think that's where the gut is this second order consequence, where your hormones get better, your blood sugar gets better, your insulin resistant starts to work out, your metabolic rate is going to be better. You're going to look better, so you're going to want to move more. You're going to hurt less, so you're going to want to do more. You'll be thinking clearer, things like that.
Yeah, because there's a big piece to mental health when it comes to our gut health. So even with that, like if you have anxiety or depression, typically you're not wanting to sit down to eat a salad. You're wanting to sit down and eat macaroni and cheese, like something that's going to be comforting, that's going to help release the dopamine, give you some sugar, carbs, whatever it is. And that alone can just drive the weight gain. It's just the mental piece. And do you come across a lot of people, Stephen, that have mental issues due to gut problems, but they don't have outward gut issues, as in they're not bloated, they don't have diarrhea, they don't have constipation? Because I've run across a lot of people that didn't have gut problems, but they go and let's say they switch to a paleo-based diet, they lower their inflammation, their gut heals, they didn't even realize was leaking, and suddenly they can come off their anti-anxiety medication, or they just say, wow, my depression has like completely cleared, my anxiety is so much better. So how often do you see in your practice where they're not having outward symptoms of gut issues, but it's in the brain?
Well, it's not that often for me, because I'm a gut guy. So people but what you're saying is very, very important. Right. And so I mean, whoever's listening to this right now, you have an issue that you're fixated on right now, and you might have a second or third order thing that pops up a few times during the week, right? Like, so for someone who identifies as having a gut issue, they're like, I got this leaky gut, I got this constipation, I got this bloating, but man, once I handle that, then I'll lose the 40 pounds. Or once I handle that, then I'll get rid of the rash or the acne or the eczema. Because for them, the pain is associated around that gut issue. A lot of times, there are plenty of people who have all spectrum of anxiety or depression, and that is clouding their life. That is what they're fixated on. That's their number one issue. And they've never had communal living. They've never really talked about poop and bloating and farting, and they don't know what's normal. They just know what they've experienced their entire lives, what their family did. And so for them, they don't think that it's abnormal to use the bathroom 6 times a day. They're like, yeah, it's just what everybody does, right? And you're like, no. Or, like I poop on Fridays, or
yeah,
something,
exactly. Once a month,
Yeah.
Right?
And so that's really common, is to do an intake interview and have someone like very much focused on a mental health issue, only to find out that when you scan the rest of their body, you're like, oh, wow, you're not pooping at all. You're pooping once a week or twice a week. You're sometimes using enemas. You've been to the hospital once in your life already for impacted stools. And also you're using products potentially that might increase that constipation, or you're eating a diet that might increase that depression and that diarrhea or whatever. So I think it's really important for humans to make sure to try to understand other humans and realize that like we are all dealing with a lot and whatever we're fixated on, it doesn't mean that the other thing's not happening. But if you would overtly ask them, they're like, no, I'm fine. I don't have a GI issue. But if you followed them around with a camera and they're on a reality TV show and they had a panel of doctors watching them, the feedback might be a lot different.
Exactly. Yeah. And so just two quick questions for you. And then I really want to hear about your product, because I've got some in the mail coming my way and I'm excited to try it. But first, when it comes to histamine intolerance, kind of a buzzword, same with SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And I feel like we had this like big explosion of everybody thought they had histamine intolerance, myself included, and SIBO. And it's just this like weirdly vague, nobody can really seem to fix it. It's like, oh, sure, you may be lacking in an enzyme for histamine intolerance, or the SIBO, well, this could be from antibiotics. I just feel like there's not really a great answer for these things. And what do you view, because you're the gut guy and people are coming to you for these problems, where do you think these are stemming from? Is there a solution to them? Is it the same thing? Like we just need to simply heal the gut?
Yes, in general, that we do need to heal the gut. I view both of those conditions as downward consequences of a messed up gut and often messed up hormones as well. So I believe the gut and the hormones are the two drivers of almost everything. They are tightly intertwined. So if you're experiencing, intense periods or premenopausal issues or menopausal issues, you're probably going to experience gut issues at one point and vice versa. And so for SIBO, the good thing is they now have really cool testing. So you can rule that out for a couple $100.
The breath test?
Well, they now have a trio breath test that'll check for hydrogen, methane, and the regular gas, which is escaping me right now. But yeah, the breath test.
Okay. I hear it's 50% false positives or something. So
no, the rate, I would say work with someone trained by Dr. Allison Seebecker. She is the SIBO professional that I, longtime friends with, but also she is just pushing the edge all the time, or Dr. Pimentel. So if the practitioner hasn't been trained by Pimentel or Seebecker, I don't know how good they're going to be, but if they're trained by those two individuals or part of their lineage of practitioners who they've been mentoring, they're really good at what they do.
And have they discovered anything yet to help it? Because it's the recurring rate is so bad. And I know like things like rifaximin, it's like, sure, somebody will feel better for a few months and then it seems to come raging back.
Yeah, that is an issue. And they do have really good protocols now that they have really good success with. Part of it coming back is, again, the fact that this might be a second order consequence to a first problem like low stomach acid or a lack of a prokinetic wave. And you might need a prokinetic drug or prokinetic supplement for months to years of your life. And so without the right stomach acid and without the right migrating Morgert complex and prokinetic waves, you'll just keep getting SIBO. And so in order to strengthen those things, you have to work with somebody who knows what they are and work with that type of thing. But it's getting less and less if you focus on not the SIBO, right? It's like, if you want weight loss, don't focus on the weight loss, focus on the other things around it that contribute to it. It's didn't make sense to my head. It still hurts my head because I would actually like to do it like, okay, I'm going to fast for 7 days, water only, and I'll run a mile every day. And by day 5, I'm like broken and I'm like, I'm an idiot. It's not going to work. But I always think I can do it.
Yeah, I know. Same. And then what about histamine? Do you have a take on that?
Yeah. So histamine is actually just like estrogen or testosterone. We don't want too little and we don't want too much. And so histamine is actually hyper important to even creating stomach acid. It helps signal stomach acid release. It's part of the inflammation cascade in the nervous system. And these are very important things. We don't want to drive it to zero. We want it in a very controlled setting. And we want our immune system in connection with the environment that's around it, not fighting it. And so histamine and histamine issues in general, I tend to see with the connection of like messed up mucus membranes and a messed up butyrate production cycle in the microbiome. If you have those two things, if you have low mucus or no mucus, which happens often to people with not enough estrogen or imbalanced progesterone estrogen ratios, you are basically bombarding your cells with way too many of potentially inert objects. So like, it's fine if you grab your hand and you rotate a lot, your skin should be able to handle that. but it's not built for you to rub it like this for the next 2 hours. It'll start to rash, and it'll start to, who knows what will happen, bad things. It'll be painful. The same thing's true even if you're feeding your gut like kale and chicken. If the mucous membranes that protect the gut and the mast cells are too thin and they're just seeing too much exposure, they will produce histamine in response to that. So that's one component. Another component is that butyrate helps regulate mast cells and helps regulate the whole cycle to be more in connection and more regulated. Basically, it sort of like bathes the mast cells and relaxes them, because in my opinion, a lot of times people with histamine issues or mast cell activation syndrome are like overreacting. They have an almost like a hypersympathetic response to life.
Yeah.
Whether it's regular food, whether it's pollen, dogs, dust in the air, they have this overreaction. And so that's an imbalance in the ability to be with what is normal. And so in order to reduce that, we have to dampen that response and pull that back into a normal range. And so part of doing that, I believe, is working on your stomach acid, working on your mucous membranes, working on your microbiome and your butyrate production. And then you can also use new products called paraprobiotics to help retrain that reaction. Basically, you can help try to make your body a little smarter to how it works with the incoming allergens. And that's in like the Th1, Th2 balance of the adaptive immune system.
Right. And do you have those? Do you sell the paraprobiotics?
Yeah, that's actually our newest product that we just released about a month ago. It's the first to market with a triple strains, all are trademarked and studied in humans to help make the immune system smarter. And part of a histamine and a poor histamine released is the immune system, like I said, is just not smart enough to deal with the current environment. And so Holo Immune is the product, and it does contain the 3 paraprobiotics. And then a lot of times when people use that in conjunction with whatever might be going on for them, which could mean like, hey, right now your body's really struggling. You can't have red wine because it's a big histamine trigger, and you can't have, sardines. I know you're keto. Sorry, you don't get to eat your sardines for the time being, because you have to, first off is like, stop rubbing the arm.
Right. Yeah. Calm it down.
The second thing is work with Karen, get your hormones on a better path, because estrogen and progesterone are going to be very helpful for dampening the immune system and building those mucus pathways. Check for low stomach acid, because basically if you don't kill the incoming bugs, that like all the stuff that's on your food and the LPS and stuff, you dump a bunch of LPS into your small intestine and you force your immune system to overreact to it. And so you can literally be causing daily wars or skirmishes, if you will, just because your stomach acid isn't properly detoxifying normal saliva to normal food. And so check for that. And then thirdly, use a tributyrin, hopefully a liquid one. Try our companies. I think it's the best, and it seems to work really well for the histamine sensitive folks. But between those 3, you can kind of dampen everything down, and then typically just slowly start to pull back off of them, right? Unless you go back into whatever triggered it in the beginning. Let's say it was mold. Let's say it was an abusive relationship. Let's say you have low stomach acid and you have H. pylori. You're going to have to deal with that stuff, Yeah. Let's say your estrogen was like in the tubes and your progesterone was way too high. You got to deal with that. Otherwise, it'll just come back and you'll need the products forever.
Ah, I see. So what is it called? Tributyrin?
Tributyrin X. Yep.
And so that's going to help with the butyrate production?
Yeah. So that's actually supplemental butyrate so it's a liquid in a gel capsule. It's very small. It doesn't smell like other products. It's enterically coated. And when it releases in the top of the small intestine, it's going to slowly time release coat the intestine, basically. And what that does in the studies is a number of things. Number one, it helps soothe those mast cells. Number 2, it helps rebuild the mucous membranes. Number 3, it improves because it stimulates MUC2 gene, which is mucus production, and then it helps increase zonulin and occludin production, so it strengthens the tight junctions. And then people taking butyric acid supplements showed better microbiome diversity by the end of it. So It's going to help basically rebuild a dysbiotic microbiome that doesn't have enough species. And so that's more of a second order consequence of those types of products.
Yeah. And doesn't it help kill candida as well, butyrate?
I'm not going to go on record saying
Oh
that.
yeah, I heard that so long ago. So
yeah, it's mildly, no.
Okay. I heard eat butter because butter had butyrate in it if it was grass fed, and then that could help fight candida. And it was like, great, just spoon in the butter at that time, right? So I just remember that was probably 10 years ago. I remember hearing that. And then what else? What is your guys' main enzyme that you have?
So our bestseller is our Holozyme. That's our enzyme product, and also can be extremely helpful for histamine people and people with food sensitivities, bloating. Holozyme is a breakthrough because I don't know if you've experienced this, but when I was seeing people one-on-one, one of the most confusing, confounding things, both my own body and other people's bodies, was that we know that if you're having bloating, gas, you're seeing food in the toilet, you're seeing greasy stools in the toilet, you're having almost any digestive issue, likely more digestive enzymes will help you. And that's literally taught in almost every single school, from MDs down to basic nutrition classes. But when you go into practice and you actually execute on that philosophy, the results to me were completely underwhelming. And as a patient, they were also extremely underwhelming. And I would, pay the price if, personally. And so this has frustrated me for over a decade. And when I decided to pivot the company and focus on better products 3 years ago, I was like, I am going to solve this issue and figure out why is it that some people do great on Digest Gold ATP Pro, and some people do great on Dipan 9 from Thorne, and some people need to take like 4 of each together, and they still don't really feel that well. What is going on here? And so I just thought it was cheap companies that didn't want to put high quality products in enough in the capsule. And that was actually false. It actually comes down to basic chemistry, which is that if your enzyme is vegan or vegetarian, which is anything that's not a pancreatin. So if it doesn't say pancreatin on the back of your bottle, pancreatin is an extract from either cow or pigs. It's made in a lab, so therefore it's vegan or vegetarian. And any animal-based enzyme that is built within our body or a pig or a cow comes with a mineral cofactor together. They're like in a little package. And when it's time for them to work, the mineral donates electrons to turn on the mineral or turn on the enzyme. When we do it in the lab, we don't add that mineral back in. And so it's called an apoenzyme. If you can go look at basic biology textbooks, APO without the enzyme. But a animal-based enzyme is called a whole, WHOLE enzyme. And so there was this PhD I met after about a year of trying to figure this out and buying like every book from the 1800s till now that was on enzymes. And he's like, I have a patent on this. And I've been trying to tell people for 15 years that this is what it is. And I tried to sell it to all these big companies and they won't listen. And I was like, okay, part of my job in life is to deal with, people like him and other people not like him who are actually crazy and they're actually snake oil salesmen, but just to buy their product and be like, yeah, no, acai berry is not a miracle. I'm sorry. I tried it. But he was like, no, this is going to work. I have a patent. I sat in the lab and I found the right mineral for each one of those enzymes that's built in the lab. And so he's like, I did studies on it. I got it. Try it. So I bought some and I tried it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually working. And then, of course, then I had to put it to the test. So I tried like a whole bag of tortilla chips and wine. And I was like, whoa, this actually is working. Yeah, passed the chip and wine test, which are oftentimes trigger foods for me. And so that's what Holozyme is. We licensed his patent, and then I took it up to the next level for those of us with digestive issues, adding in a lot of specialty microbiome enzymes like alpha-galactidase or xylanase. Alpha-galactidase is really important for cruciferous vegetables, for beans and legumes, things like that. And then xylanase is very helpful for salicylate intolerance. And so there's a extra like newer specialty enzymes for digestively challenged folks that were never part of his original sort of base formula. And so that's what Holozyme is. And I think I really do believe it's the best product in the market.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get mine and try it. And then my mom, my sister, they all have histamine until like severe histamine intolerance. And then my dad's got SIBO. So I'm going to share it with him and then
Okay.
buy some if it works for him, because you're right. Cause I've tried it all. Like I've tried all these different things, and what you're saying makes so much sense to me. And I'm excited to try it, Stephen. So I will link to his website in the show notes, everyone. So you can go check it out. And we've got a coupon code for everybody that will also be in the show notes. I think we decided it's called The Other Side 15, and you get 15% off, but let's just confirm that by looking in the show notes. I'm excited. Well, thank you so much, Stephen, for coming on the show. It was really nice to meet you, and I'm happy that I finally got to have you on.
Yeah, it was so great to chat, and I hope that this stuff's gonna help your family, and I hope
Thank you.
we'll have to do a round 2 in like 4 to 6 months here,
Yes.
when we have something to talk about, good or bad.
Yes, I'm sure it'll be good. I'll tell my family members they have to join, and they can give you a testimonial.
That'd be great.
Okay, there you go. All right. Well, thank you so much.